Alright, I'm going to show you guys a pro tip. They shoot out like a freaking supercharged water fountain. I'm Bronson with Red Gear, and this here is absolutely not my buggy. You might recognize this rig on one of our recent wrecked rides. Proving Grounds Racing is a rad contender in the 4400 class, and they took second place at the King of the Hammers in the 4500 class. They were rad enough to let me use their shop to show you guys how to fill your tires with water and why slow technical crawlers put water in their tires. If you're into Ultra 4, make sure you follow Proving Grounds Racing. Alright, now that we already have the buggy on the lift, I already have water in the tires, so we're going to go ahead and show you how to take the water out of the tires first. Alright, I'm going to show you guys a pro tip. This thing here is going to help you a lot with draining the water out of your tires. If you take that valve stem out, it's just going to shoot out like a freaking supercharged water fountain, and it makes a mess everywhere. And we're in a shop, and I can't be doing this in this nice Proving Grounds shop, or they're going to kick me the hell out. So I got this little tube here, and what we're going to do is we're going to use this put right over the top of that valve core, valve stem, valve, whatever the hell it is. And then we're gonna use this to drain it into a bucket so I don't slop up their shop. First things first, you gotta take the valve core out of the valve stem. As you can see, you don't need a fancy valve core puller. You can use whatever you got. This is a cheapy slime keychain one that came out of a box of plugs that I got a long time ago. It's about the junkiest valve core puller there is, but you'll still get the job done with it. Once you get the valve core pulled out, then you can move on to the next step. If you're outside and in your driveway, you can just let it shoot out like a supercharged super soaker. If you happen to be at your buddy's Ultra 4 shop or any other place that you don't want to dump 15 to 30 gallons per tire, then I highly recommend you use a couple feet of fuel line, slip it over the valve stem, fill up a couple buckets, and dump it outside. I've never been called a window licker, but I'm for sure going to be called a tire water sipper after this one. Absolutely do not drink water from your tires, especially used ones. Some off-roaders use radiator fluid, steel shot, lead shot, and other things besides water in their tires, all of which are extremely harmful, so do not do it. When you're draining out your tires completely, you'll actually want the buggy's weight on the tires, and the valve stem to be at the very bottom of the wheel. This will get the maximum amount of water out of your tires without taking off the bead. Once you see the water lose pressure coming out of the valve stem, you'll have to put the valve core back in and air them back up to give them more pressure. Don't be afraid to air them up to 30 psi. The more pressure, the quicker it's going to drain. This guy right here you can get at most auto parts stores. If you can't find it there, go to a tractor supply store. This is a very common thing to fill a tractor tire with water for the same reasons: increased traction. The big end goes on the hose side and the small end goes on the valve core side. Once you have them good and tight, turn on the water and let it fill up. Just like you had to fill up the tire with air a couple times to create pressure to blow out the water, when you are filling it, you will fill until the pressure is too high to allow more water in. Then you clock your valve stem to the top of the wheel, take off your hose fitting, and relieve the pressure. Keep doing this until you are higher than the desired amount of water that you want in your tire. Don't mind my leaky adapter. I've only ran it over like 3 or 4 times, so it's a bit leaky. So once you've filled your tires, you're never gonna know what level it's at because you just let the hose run. But once you add a bunch of air into that tire with the water in it, when your valve stem's all the way up, it's gonna let air out, and then you're gonna clock your tire just like this. And as you clock it, then that valve stem where the water level's at, it's gonna start spraying out the water. So on the measurement of where your valve stem is at, if it's here, that means right here is your water line. If we bring it down here, so right there, it's coming out, and then you'll see it'll slowly stop. So my water line is right here now. So that's a little over top of the hub. And then if you wanted to drain it out to the bottom of the hub, you just clock it to the bottom of the hub right there, and you'd let all that water come out until it came all the way out. You may have to air it up again because enough pressure will leak out so it won't push the water out. You air it up again, keep it right at that spot that you want it, and then it's gonna drain out until you have the perfect level. I adjust my water level to the top of the hub, which is 300 pounds, give or take a little bit. I only run water in my fronts. You can find good charts on how many gallons and how much weight you're putting in your tires on some tractor tire water charts online. Find a wheel and tire size closest to yours and get some rough numbers. Now that we have everything set up the way that we like, it's time to take it off the lift, and we are done. Now it's time I show you guys a couple clips and explain the benefits and the negatives of having water in your tires. Water in your front tires puts more weight, which allows for more traction and holds the front of your rig down, allowing you to go up things like this. On this obstacle, you can see that the rig has reached its tip over angle and starts to go, but because he had extra weight, it slowed down the speed in the tipping backwards and giving him more time to catch reverse and bring the rig back down.
Yes, good save!
If you watch this rig, he goes up and he gets super light, and then he tips back until he hits the rear tire. We've all seen people hang off for the front of bumpers to add weight to keep this from happening. With water in your tires, it's like having two guys hanging, but even better because it's hanging off your axle. Lower the weight and center of gravity, the more the pull. Here's a good example of a similar situation, but when you have water in your tires. This rig starts to climb and the front passenger starts to float pretty high, but seems to keep the front stable, and then you'll see the weight forces it down and then floats the rear right over the obstacle. One of our questions we get asked a lot is why we don't run water in our rear tires. Due to our style of wheeling, if we can go up it, then we can go down it. Because we have it in front dig, and when you start to go down, if it hits the bottom and we have it in front wheel drive, if the rears do want to go over, causing us to roll, then we can throttle out and settle down that rear axle before it happens. Comp rigs run water in all four tires due to the amount of side hilling they do. This rig's passenger side was on the top of the steepest part of this obstacle. Before he rolled, you can see the weight slowed him down and gave him the edge to even attempt this side hill. One big negative when you add water is you're adding more weight and traction, which sounds like a positive, but when you add more weight and traction, you're adding a lot of stress to your parts. Make sure to have the parts that can take the amount of water that you're running, otherwise it'll find all your weak spots and break them. Another negative is on paved roads at high speeds, the water splashes around and causes your buggy to surge front and back. You can, however, reduce this by playing with your amount of water that you put in your tires. Sponsored in part by BFGoodrich Tires, OnTrail Off-Road Mapping, HiLites, and AXEL Off-Road Helmets. Best way to support this channel is to give that subscribe button a little skiddly-doo, diddle that notification bell, give this video the fat finger, and leave a dirty little comment down below.